That's just what I need, is something flying around and all this work too. Okay. All right, guys, so I'm going barefoot, just because we're going to spend some time down, kneeling into ankles. You're welcome to keep your shoes on if you want to. Just generally speaking, as we train some stuff into ankles, you're probably going to feel the floor better if you're, if you're not in your sneakers. So, that being said, today is kind of a squat focus. So, looking at the last couple of weeks, and really what I've tried to do in this whole 3-week program is throw a little bit of everything, okay? In the sense that we've done a lot of rotational work through our hips, we've done a lot of rotational work through our shoulders. We've done, in that sense, a lower body focus and upper body focus. Today we're going to do kind of a movement focus, and at that, break down what are the prerequisite ranges of motion to a squat. So, sort of simply, we need ankle dorsiflexion, we need knee flexion, we need hip flexion, and we need an upright torso. And if you have most of those things, then you have the prerequisites for a squat, okay? So, like we've done every class, we'll start with our cars, okay? Starting seated at the ankle. And what I'm going to do is one at a time here, because I think it helps to get a little better range of motion. I like to take this kind of hug around my thigh. You don't have to. You can put your heel down if you want. I just think I can kind of feel a little better through my ankle. But what I want you to imagine we're going to do here is draw really big circles with your big toe, okay? So starting, I'm putting my toes pointed away. I'm going to make a big circle to the outside, flexing the big toe up toward my shin. Now deviating toward the midline, down toward the bottom. And go ahead with me, we're going to do 3, 4 big circles through the ankles, going one way. And then switching, going the opposite way. And once you've got 4 reps to each side on that foot, switch feet. And start with the foot pointed away. Going to deviate to the outside, making big circles, that big toe kind of leading the way. Make sure you're feeling the work through the ankle at all times. And switching directions. And I don't think I even hit play on my phone, so I'm already off to a flying start on that. Oh, yes, I did. Okay. And to knees, I'm going to do these together, kind of sit like modified bear stance, and we're just going to work axial rotation. So heels planted on the ground, we're going to rotate the foot to the outside, to the inside. And as we come toward the end of those rotations there, I really want you to feel like you're squeezing through the knee to get a little extra range of motion on each pass. Going for about 7 or 8 axial rotations through the knees. Done with that, we're going to come up to a half kneel. Sit down on one knee. With my left leg in front, I'm going with my right arm for my shoulder cars. I'm going to squeeze a lacrosse ball, just more tension, more radiation. By now, we should get pretty familiar with this range of motion. My palm starts away from the body. I'm going to reach relatively easy effort across the body for the first rep. Coming full overhead. Start to wring out that shoulder. Twisting through that shoulder joint. Coming up to shoulder extension, down to the hip, reverse the motion. Take the rotation out, transition to full overhead, bring it back across the body, down to neutral. Another rep, a little higher radiation on this one. Squeeze that ball a little stronger, a little slower. The air's a little heavier that we're fighting through as we come through this second repetition here. Finishing by the hip. Extend to the shoulder, take the rotation out. Come to full overhead, back across the body, down to neutral, one more, higher radiation on this one. Squeeze the floor between your foot and your knee. Brace through your midsection. Pull across the body, squeeze that pec. Squeezing, squeezing, squeezing. Follow my pace here. If you're overhead, we're going too fast already, okay? Full overhead, rotate away from the body. slowly as we reach back. Try to keep your shoulder as close to the midline as possible here. Feel that work behind the shoulder until we finish at the hip. Same idea here. I'm squeezing, wrinkling the ground between my legs. Extend the shoulder. Feel that work through the tricep, the back of the shoulder. Take the rotation out completely. Slowly, fighting through heavy air. We're transitioning, full overhead. Coming now across the body, squeezing through that pec. Get as much adduction through the shoulder as possible. And down to neutral. Ball down for a second. We're going to do some half rep thoracic spine cars, okay? So what that means is, I'm going to move into flexion. I'm going to rotate away from my front leg. I'm going to extend back to tall and come back down, okay? So half rep cars. Starting, flex forward. Once we're in full flexion, rotate. Don't let your elbows guide you. Rotating, I'm going to my right. I'm laterally flexing, shoulder over hip. Starting to draw a line across the ceiling with my elbows until I'm right about the middle. Then I'm coming right back down into full flexion. I'm going to add something here in a moment. We're rotating to the right, laterally flexing to the right. Now, from this laterally flexed position, 2 deep breaths. Laterally flex and rotate a little bit deeper. One more deep breath. Move into extension, elbows to the ceiling, down to neutral, and grab your PVC. With my left leg in front here, I'm holding the PVC with my right arm. We're going to work some hip cars from a half kneel. These are kind of spicy, just so we're getting a heads up, okay? And we're going to start. I'm going to use this dowel, drive it into the ground for some stable base here. And pull the knee up, open to the side, internally rotate, extend the hip, knee never touches the ground, extend the hip straight back, externally rotate, really feel the work through the glute. We're pulling the knee up as high toward the ceiling as we can, back across the body and down. Quick little tip here for those of you guys who are losing some balance. Get your toes on that back leg in contact with the ground, okay? You'll feel a little bit more stable here. And make sure you're using that dowel for some support. So rep 2 here, pull the knee right up toward that chest, okay? Feel that work through that hip and groin there. Open the leg out to the side. Internally rotate, kicking that foot back. Feel the work through the glute. Knee never touches the ground as we come toward neutral. Extend the hip. Fire that glute to extend. Externally rotate. Pulling the knee up toward the ceiling. Back across the midline. And down. Switching sides now. Lacrosse ball now. I'm going my left arm here. Little lighter effort, shoulder car to start. Reach across the body. Transition to full overhead. Internally rotate and extend. Toward out our side. Extend the shoulder straight back. Take out the rotation. Come to full overhead. Across the body. Down to neutral. A little higher effort this time. Squeeze that ball. Feel through the pec as we're reaching slowly overhead. Air's a little heavier. We're fighting through heavy air. We're internally rotating through the shoulder. Transitioning behind the body. Slowly, 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 and extending. Take out the rotation completely. Transition to full overhead. Squeezing through pec as we bring that arm across the body. Down to neutral. Higher effort this one. Squeeze the ground. Wrinkle the ground between your legs. Squeeze that ball. And match my pace here. We're coming across the body. Firing through that pec. Feel it cramping a little bit. Slowly, slowly. Coming to full overhead. Start to rotate. Bring out through that shoulder joint like you're squeezing a towel to get the water out. Keep reaching behind. I'm keeping my arm as close to my midline as possible. Down to neutral. Extend the shoulder, as much extension as possible. Take out that rotation. Transitioning slowly, slowly, slowly. Full overhead. Squeezing through pec. Across the body. And down to neutral. Ball down. Half rep T-spine cars here. Now, that deep breath cue I gave, feel your ribs expand, okay? Really, really impactful in terms of opening up some motion through that upper back. So I'm going to flex through my trunk here. I'm rotating to my left, laterally flexing, shoulder over hip, transitioning to extension to the upper back, elbows toward the ceiling, and down to neutral. Again, flexing, rotating, laterally flexing, deep breath. As much air in as you can. Start to transition toward extension, another deep breath, as much air in as you can. Elbows to the ceiling, down to neutral. Now, forewarning here, let's get our toes in contact with the ground on that rear foot, okay? So we're gonna try to get a little better balance for these half kneeling cars, okay? In. I'm going with my right leg, pull the knee in toward the chest, opening to the side, kicking that foot back to internally rotate the hip, slowly, feel that work through the glute, knee never touches the ground, extend the hip straight back. Externally rotate, pulling that knee up as high toward the ceiling as we can. Bring it back toward the midline, rest it down. Higher effort on this one. Squeezing, irradiating, pulling the knee toward the ceiling. Opening to the side. Internally rotate, feel that squeeze through that hip. Transition with internal rotation, firing through those glutes. Down to neutral. Extend. Externally rotate, opening that hip out to the side, knee to the ceiling, leg across the body, and down. Okay. So, what we're gonna do is start with a few overhead full tension squat reps, okay? And what I mean by full tension is I'm gonna go with my arms basically perpendicular to the floor and the ceiling. And as I drop into my squat, I want you to try to maintain as perpendicular a position of torso and arms to floor and ceiling as possible, okay? Because almost everyone, as they start to feel fail into a squat, they're coming in too much of a hip hinge or trunk flexion. Done correctly, you should feel practically every muscle in your back squeezing to keep you upright, okay? So this is where I'm gonna go maybe slightly even wider stance than we might normally in a squat, okay? But just by a little bit. I'm gonna squeeze the floor with my feet, if you will. Arms straight overhead. And John, this will win if you want. Split squat, okay? You can try it either way. And we're gonna start to drop slowly. Feel as you get deeper there, that work through the back. As you get to the bottom, I want you to pull your butt in toward your heels. Feel that work through hamstring. We're still upright through the torso. And we're gonna stand back up. Shake out those arms, especially those of us who just did that work. Once again, arms overhead. Coming down. Slowly. Feel the work through the back. Full tension, keeping those arms, torso upright. Squeeze the butt toward the ankles. Squeeze the knees closer together there. And stand up tall. Shake out your arms. Matt, you come and do a rep with us, man? Let's go. Arms right up overhead. And lowering. Slowly. We're gonna stay here. Try to keep those arms upright. Pull them back. Really pulling back behind you. Stand up tall. Okay. So we're gonna revisit that toward the end of the class, okay? With a few more sort of challenges there. Take note of kind of how you feel now versus later, okay? Just mental notes, it's valuable. So, for our ankle tails and legs, I'm gonna get down to what we call a combat-based position. I have no idea what I call it, combat-based. I think it's something to do with jiu-jitsu. But what that means is I'm gonna kind of sit on my ankle. This is uncomfortable if anybody's got like a dodgy knee. Just come up into a half kneel, and your work is gonna be to push the knee in front of the toes here, keeping the heel down. For those of us who don't have to be super mindful of the knees, I'm gonna pack my chest behind my thigh, okay? And as I lean my upper body weight over my thigh, I'm gonna feel that pressure start to build top of the ankle, top of the foot area, okay? And we're just gonna sit here, When it comes time for our PALS efforts, we're going to drive the foot into the floor, gas pedal motion, okay? Our rails effort, on the other hand, is going to be to pull the shin to the foot, pull the foot to the shin, try to lift the toes off the ground, working all those muscles along the front of the lower leg there, okay? So for now, just sort of settle into this, find that deep position of dorsiflexion on the ankle here. This is a super, super valuable mobilization for everybody squatting. I'll be honest, the way I usually program those overhead squats there is to not put our arms down, but after that workout, there's no chance I was doing it that way, so we gotta get a little break there. You should feel a pressure in the front of the ankle. You may feel some stretch through the calf and Achilles, that's okay. But the idea is we're trying to improve the potential of the motion of the foot to the shin. You kind of feel it up in the hip. So maybe sit back then, so you're more of like a lunge position, okay? Take some load off the hip, keep your back upright, and then push, kind of hands over knees. That help you feel in the ankle better? Yeah, there you go. Just rock it like that. Was that?
Lower calf too?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so we got our stretch tissue here is everything through the calf and the bottom of the foot. Okay, so we're about 90 seconds in this position. So 10% effort, gas pedal motion is my right foot. I'm just going to push the foot into the floor. Become familiar with some of that PALS resistance there. Okay? I'm going to ramp to 30% to 50%. I'm trying to push the earth away, squeezing my toes down into the floor, gas pedaling the floor away here. I'm going to now put my hands into the floor to the sides of my body. I'm irradiating, pushing the earth away with my hands. I'm squeezing through my thigh here, squeezing through my calf and shin, and increasing effort, 70%, 80%. Strongest, safest effort, we're pushing the earth away, PALS effort, holding. Pushing the earth away, pushing the earth away, hold, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, rails. Squeeze through that shin, squeeze through the top of the foot, try to lift your toes off the ground, pull your leg deeper into this position. Imagine you're trying to squeeze a ball between the top of the foot and the front of the ankle there, okay? We're trying to squeeze into that tissue, keep squeezing, harder. Pull the toes off the floor, pull the foot off the floor, pull the shin to the foot, keep it going, 3, 2, 1, rest, stay in that stretch. We're going to go through another sequence, just kind of sink a little deeper into that position now. Those of us with our kind of torso behind the thigh, use your body weight, lean into it a little bit. Just going to rest for half a second here. More than half a second. And increasing PALS effort, 10% gas pedal motion, start to push the foot into the floor. 30%, 50%, start to irradiate, 60%, 70%, 80%. Strongest, safest effort, drive the earth away, PALS effort, contraction. I'm pushing my toes into the floor, I'm pushing my foot into the floor, and I'm holding, holding, holding. I can feel the work in my calf here, holding, 3, 2, 1, rails. Squeeze through the shin, pull the knee over the front of the toes, pull the toes off the floor. Try to touch your shin to the top of your foot, holding it, squeeze it. You should be cramping through the shin area here. Squeezing, squeezing, squeezing. 4, 3, 2, 1. Rest, sit back. Not quite done with that yet. Just kind of let your ankle breathe for a second here. And we're going to work now what are called some passive range holds. What I'm going to do is get back to that end range position of dorsiflexion. We're going to start to work a rails effort contraction, okay? I'm going to squeeze through my foot and ankle, and then I'm going to use my hands, and I'm going to slowly start to push my body away as I try to maintain, so you guys can see this over here too, that deep position of stretch. So I come to my end range, I squeeze through shin and foot, and I rock back, okay? Clear? So, knee over toes there. Get into that dorsiflexion. Start to squeeze through the shin, the ankle, the top of the foot, and rock back slowly. Try to maintain that position. Really feel that work through the top of the foot and ankle there. Holding. And lower. I'm burning through my ankles now. I hope you guys are too. And we're going to squeeze, irradiate, lean away, holding. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Lower back down. Last one. Squeezing through shin. Try to get as much control in this range of motion as possible. And rock back. Holding. 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 3, 2, 1. Release. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. To the other side. What's that? Yeah, I mean, if we're losing feeling, then change your position. Yeah. Remember, like rule number 1. Actually, you weren't here the first week for rule number 1. No pain, man. No problems. Right? Okay. So I'm in my left ankle now. I'm packing my body behind my thigh, and we're just gonna kind of find that deep position of dorsiflexion and rest here for 90 seconds or so. Embrace this stretch, if you will. You might feel it through calf, Achilles. Maybe you feel the pressure in the front of the ankle. All is good like that. Normally on Sunday, you get to go home, watch the Patriots game, but they're an absolute embarrassment right now. I'm gonna get shellacked. That's the Bills today, too. Hey, Coach Jess, you gonna do that workout over there? Yeah. Have fun. Oh man, the burn. Okay, guys, starting 10% pales effort contraction. Push that foot into the floor. Push your toes into the floor. Start to push the earth away. 30% effort. 50% effort. Now start to irradiate. Squeeze through the thigh on that same side leg. Push the ground away with your hands. 70% effort, driving the earth away. 80%, and your strongest, safest effort. Push the earth away. Keep pushing. Gas pedal motion, foot into the floor. Pushing. Pushing. Hard. Pushing. 3, 2, 1. Rails, squeeze through the shin, lift the toes off the floor as best you can. Try to trap that imaginary ball between the top of the foot and the shin. We're squeezing, we're holding. We're trying to lift the foot, we're trying to pull the shin, we're holding. 3, 2, 1. Relax, sit into this stretch a little bit. And we're going to go right back into pales. 10% effort, pales contraction, gas pedal motion, foot to floor. 30%, 50%, 70%, I'm radiating, 80, 90%, strongest, safest effort, pushing that foot, curling those toes down, trying to push the earth away from this position here. We're driving that foot down. Stronger than that first sequence. Pushing, pushing, 3, 2, 1. Harder rails contraction than last time. Squeeze all that muscle through the shin. Try to lift your toes off the floor. Try to touch your shin to the top of the foot. Pulling, squeeze, squeeze. Really try to lift all those toes. Hold those toes off the ground. Holding 4, 3, 2, 1. Rest back. And breathe for a second here. And find yourself right back down into that end range position here. Let John get the feeling back in his leg. Right? And we're going to squeeze through the shin. We're going to pull those toes off of the ground, and I'm going to slowly rock myself back, trying to keep that position, ankle dorsiflexion. I feel that burn through the lower part of my shin and ankle. Holding 3, 2, 1. Rock right back down into that deep ankle stretch there. Start to again, irradiate, squeeze, consciously squeeze the muscles through the shin. Try to lift the toes off the floor, hold tension, rocking away now. Lift that ankle up, holding, 4, 3, 2, 1. Lower back down. Strongest one on this last one here. I'm squeezing through the shin, squeezing through the top of the foot, trying to touch my shin to my foot, and I'm going to rock back. Passive range hold here, squeezing through the top of the foot, holding it, 4, 3, 2, 1, and release. Moving on towards knees. I'm going to go to a half kneel. We're going to work knee flexion, so we're going to spend some time in the old-fashioned quad stretch that everybody's done. Now, if just sort of staying fairly upright like this doesn't get you a deep enough stretch in the quad, then lean into it more, okay? If we're going to start to create some extension on the hip in addition to flexion on the knee, that should drive a stronger stretch into the thigh, okay? So we're going to lean into it. I'm holding my ankle here, and I'm just finding that stretch right here through my quad. If anybody's hurting on their knees too, there's some pads over there. Looks like Jill's smarter than the rest of us. Cover her knee there. When it comes time for our pails effort is going to be to drive the foot and ankle into the hand supporting the stretch here, okay? Our rails is going to be to squeeze through the hamstring, okay, and try eventually to prevent a loss of knee flexion. This is going, someone in here is going to cramp up during the rails contraction. It's those cramps, it's kind of, it's the brain's way of saying it doesn't know what to do. So knee flexion is one of those things where a lot of people can squat really, really deep. But the question is, like, are you really using all the tissues that are facilitated in that deep position? And most people can't use their hamstrings past like 90 degrees in knee flexion. So yet they can get, like all of us here, probably pretty close, heel to butt. So that's a potential issue. And that's why we do something like this, try to make it more equal. Our control plus our flexibility.
You had to say cramp.
All right, team. So 10% effort. Push your foot into your hand. 30% effort. Like you're trying to kick a ball here. 50%. 70%. Strongest, safest effort. Driving the foot into the hand. Kicking that foot into the hand. Holding. 3, 2, 1. Rails effort. Start to squeeze through your butt, squeeze through your hamstring. Move your hand away from your foot and hold. Hold. Squeeze that hamstring. Squeezing. 4, 3, 2, 1, and support. It's hard.
Front guy is super fatigued.
What's that?
The front guy is super fatigued. Can you do something else in the front?
And the-
Just like,
Oh, that leg's, yeah. You can go sideline, I suppose. You know what I mean? And then just take the load off that front leg. Just as long as our only concern, it's a good question. My only concern is the stretch through the quad and the knee. So if your front leg is fatigued from being in a lunge, as far as I'm concerned, go sideline. Take the load completely off that front leg. Still exactly the same intent, right? We're still going to kick the foot into the hand. We're still going to squeeze through that hamstring and try to maintain knee flexion. So it's really whatever's more comfortable. Thanks for asking that, Molly. That's a good question. So, give you guys a moment to get acclimated here again. And 10% effort, pales contraction, push the foot into the hand. 30%, 50%, kick that foot, 70% effort. Strongest, safest effort, pushing, pushing, pushing. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Squeeze through hamstring. Squeeze through butt. Move your hands slowly away. I feel that cramp in me here. Hold it. Hold. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let your leg down. Rest. Now, we're going to grab the yoga block. Work what are called some lift-offs here. Okay, this is going to be a little tricky sideline. Might want to do this one up. Now, I'm going to put my foot resting on the block. Okay? I'm actually going to grab the PVC as well, just to have a little bit of stability here. I'm going to find myself not all the way to the end range and knee flexion here. Okay? But I'm going to lock out my leg in extension, and I'm going to radiate, squeeze through hamstring, lift off as far as I can, hold, lower back down. Okay? So, use that PVC, drive it into the ground, find the right height for you with the yoga block there. Okay? Even if the yoga block's not up too high, the more you lean forward, okay, and kind of get hip flexor involved on that same side, the harder this will be. So we're going to lean into it. We're going to squeeze through the butt on that stretch side. Squeeze through hamstring and lift off. As far as you can into that range of motion, trying to close down that space behind the knee. Holding, holding, lower down. Radiate, drive that dowel down, squeeze through the butt, squeeze through the hamstring, lift off. Imagine you've got a ball behind your knee there and you are trying to squeeze it with everything you got, trying to touch your heel to your butt. We're squeezing. Another 3, 2, 1, let it down. Last one, make it the best. Irradiate, drive that dowel down into the ground. Squeeze through the butt, squeeze through the hamstring, and lift off. More range of motion than the first two. As much as you can control. Squeezing, embrace that cramp for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and lower. Switch sides. It's good stuff. Okay. Okay, so just settle into a stretch on that knee. If this is one, if you want to do sideline, go right ahead. Totally fine. Another consideration, I talked about how like, the first two classes we did tons of rotational, in Kinstretch sort of lingo. Settle back into that stretch. I don't know what you guys are feeling. This is my front leg right now after that first sequence there. Other side. And then it tails up for contraction. 10% effort, drop the foot into the hands. 30%. 50%. 70%. And your strongest, safest effort. Kick that foot away. Kick. And keep kicking. Push the foot into the hands. Push it. 5, 4. Stronger than last time. 3, 2, 1. Now squeeze through the glute. Squeeze through the hamstring. Start to fire with the hand away. Holding for 10, 9, 8. Squeeze that hamstring. Really try to squeeze that knee together. We're trapping an imaginary ball behind the knee there for 4, 3, 2, 1. Release. Get that yoga block set up. I'm going to really lock out my hip into extension here. Make this harder through hand. That's good. Let's start to squeeze through the glute on that side. Squeeze through the hamstring. Lift off. Through as much range of motion as you can. Hold it. Hold it. Squeeze that hamstring. Squeeze it. 3, 2, 1, lower. We're trying to get the brain to talk to the hamstring in this position. Start to squeeze through the glute. Squeeze through that hamstring before we lift. We're firing, we're squeezing through the thigh, and lift the foot off. Try to touch your heel to your butt. Squeeze through that hamstring. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, lower. One more. Squeeze through that butt. Squeeze through the whole thigh. I'm squeezing every muscle consciously. My quads, my hamstring, even my calf. Dial in that tension of the hamstring. Lift off that knee there. Try to touch the heel to the thigh. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and release. Okay. Now we're going to go to the rig. What's that, man? You're going to feel that pressure up in the front. pushing the rig away from you, okay? But for here, we're just sort of settling into this deep position of hip flexion, getting the hip comfortable being here. I'm holding the rig now with one hand, just to kind of keep myself pulled down in this position. And the reason is because I start to push into the rig. If I'm not holding it, I'm going to probably push my body away a little bit, okay? So you're kind of anchoring yourself to the rig here. We're locked down on that rig, and with a 10% effort, drive the foot into the rig. And a 30% effort. 50% effort. You know, we're trying to move an immovable object right now. 70% effort, 80, 90, strongest, safest effort, push that rig. Push, push, push straight down through the rig. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Rails effort. Squeeze through the hip and groin. Lift the ankle off. You're hovering maybe a centimeter off of that rig. Holding. Oh yeah. Holding. Holding. 4, 3, 2, 1. And rest it down. Oh man. I haven't done these in a while. So we're going to hold here. One more sequence like that. Now, when I say we're hovering, you might not actually be able to lift your foot off the rig, and that's okay. But the intention is as though you are going to. Really, really feeling that effort in the front hip flexor area as we try for those rails contractions. So, anchor yourself to the rig again, lock the hand down there. Another 10% effort, pales contraction, push the foot into the rig. 30%. 50%, pushing that thing straight away from you. 70%, and your strongest, safest effort, push. 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 4, 3, 2, 1. Rails. Lift through that hip, hover off that rig. Hovering. 4, 3, 2, 1, and let it out. Okay, switch sides. It's only taking us 3 weeks to get vocal about this. So I wonder last week's the quietest Kinstretch class on earth. We're embracing the uncomfortable here, no question. So I'm in my left hip now, just settle that butt, kind of tuck it in toward the rig as deep as you can comfortably. Again, no problem to let the knee come out to the side if that feels good. We're just kind of exploring the front of our hips here, deep, deep hip flexion. Be our last sequence of pails and rails for today, so that's a good thing. If you can, sink yourself a little deeper into that stretch. We're always trying to find end range. And now, anchor yourself to the rig, lock a hand down there. With a 10% effort, start to push that rig away from you. 30%. 50%. I'm pushing straight down. 60. 70%. 80. And now your strongest, safest effort, drive straight down into the rig. Push. Push. No loss of tension. Push. 4, 3, 2, 1. Now start rails. Squeeze through the groin, squeeze through the front of the hip, lift off. Hovering, Rails, squeeze and brace that cramp through the groin. Squeeze, hovering off that rig. 4, 3, 2, 1, and rest down. Breathe, few good breaths. Right back in another sequence here. Ten % effort, pales contraction, drive into the rig there. Lock your hand in place, remember. 30%, 50%, push that thing straight away from you. 70%, 90%, strongest, safest effort, driving down, down, down. Push. Keep pushing. 4, 3, 2, 1. Rails. Pull off that rig. Hover. Hover. Really strong. Strong as you can. Hold it. Breathe. 4, 3, 2, 1, and release. Okay. All right. And back to your mats. Shake your legs out for a second if you need to, because this next part's hard. But then we're done. That's good. So a quick refresher. We're going to work some swimmers, okay, which we haven't done since the first week. Swimmers, we're going to start with the hands behind the head, elbows down. We pull the elbows back, we lift the hands off, we go to Y, we internally rotate to A, we hinge at the elbow, we release, okay? Now, these are programmed to be done from the squat base. It's not easy. Okay? So if you get down there and you're hurting, or it's just not going to work for you, it's totally fine. Do them from a standing position. Okay? Cool. So, first thing first, we're going to work some of those high tension overhead squats again on the way down. Okay? When we get to the bottom, we're going to work some ankle stuff here. Okay? Where I want you, now the familiarity with some rails contractions through ankle, to pull through the shin, deeper into the base of that squat. Then, we're going to push and pull to a side, push and pull back, push and pull to the other side, and make some big, big circles around the ankles, okay? But these are active. It's not just some kind of loosey-goosey, passive range of motion here. I want you to feel like you're squeezing and controlling that rotation both directions, okay? So, swimmers are going to do the second part. So overhead, start to set those shoulder blades back, squeezing, full tension. I'm going to go a little bit wider on my own stance here, okay? And lowering. Keep the back upright, keep the back upright. Arms down. Now, pull into your shins. Feel that work through that regressive tissue, or rails tissue. Now, with one foot, you're pushing away, the other foot you're pulling into this, okay? And we're going to go slow. It's hard, but you're trying to feel what muscles are pushing, what muscles are pulling as we make one big circle through the ankles. When I'm back to the front, kind of to the middle, I'm going to push the opposite way. Some ways, I think this kind of motion feels good. Just exploring some motion through ankles. I've done 1 rep to each direction. I'm going to reverse again. Pushing on one foot, pulling through the other. Working all these small tissues around the ankle. Feel the squeeze through those muscles as you're making these big circles around the ankles. I'm going now. Second rep. Opposite direction. full overhead, maximum tension, slowly, standing, up to tall. Okay? This next one, overhead, all the way to the bottom, to the basement. Okay? At the basement, we'll release tension through the shoulders. We're going to work axial rotations through the hips. Okay? The goal being trying to move the knee toward the opposite foot. If this is pinching in your hips, don't go so deep into the hip as you feel a pinch. Okay? It's okay to allow the heel to come off the floor here, but we're going to try to keep the toes in contact with the ground at all times. Okay? So, overhead, full tension, lower. Feel that work through the back. Release. And I'm going with my right leg. I'm going to internally rotate through the hip, knee down toward the opposite foot, and then open out to the side. Knee down toward the opposite foot, open out to the side. Knee down toward the opposite foot, opening to the side. One more. Knee toward the opposite foot, opening out to the side. Sit down, rest for a second. Other side. Now my left leg, left knee toward right foot, left knee away. Left knee toward right foot, left knee away. Left knee toward right foot, away. Left knee toward right foot, away. Fully overhead, full tension, back to tall. And our last little sequence here, we're going to do our swimmers, ideally from squat base, okay? But if you can't, it's okay, do them tall. But if you're going to do them tall, go down, go up, and then do the swimmers, okay? So, fully overhead, squeeze through that back, lowering, slowly, keep that back perpendicular to the floor, to the base, let the arms down. Now, we're going to start hands behind the head, elbows out in front of the body. Pull the elbows back, lift the hands off the head, extend to Y, internally rotate, reaching back, swimming back to A. Hinge at the elbows, release tension, elbows back, hands push off the back, hinge out at elbows to A, externally rotate to Y, hinge, hands behind head, elbows out in front, straight up overhead, stand up, one more sequence. Fully overhead, full tension, squat. Keep that back perpendicular to the floor, release tension. I'm feeling it too. Hands behind the head, elbows out in front of the body. Pull the elbows back, squeeze your shoulder blades together. Lift the hands off the head. Extend to Y. Internally rotate, swimming back to A. Hinge at elbows, reach as far behind your back as you can. Release tension. Elbows pull back. Extend out at elbows to A. Externally rotate, swimming up, swimming up, swimming up to Y. Hinge at elbows, behind the head. Elbows down. Full overhead, max tension. That's it. Just joined us on that last Sunday. Alright guys, so that's it for Kinstretch. Thank you to all you guys for signing up for this 3-week cycle. I hope it was challenging, rewarding, maybe eye-opening in some ways. Give some good rewards back to Abby and Steve there. And, you know, if it resonates well for y'all, I really hope to do it again. When the time comes, assuming we can do it again, I want to make it as relevant to everybody here as possible, which is to say, like, if you haven't followed some kind of lift or some kind of movement or something like that, we can make an entire class about that. And it makes it really, really pertinent to who you are and what your goals are. And chances are, if you're feeling a problem someplace, so are a bunch of other people. So please give me feedback, ask me any questions, and kind of the final bit of advice is keep doing your cars. They're really good for you. Okay? Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.